Hi, everyone. This is Rob Roy, and welcome to the HUBB Financial Crypto Show, where we talk about all things crypto with crypto expert Mr. Brandon Burton, who tells me we're going to be talking about Ethereum in this recording. So stay tuned for that. Before we bring Brandon on, let's take a quick look at what's going on in the markets. We have Chairman Powell testifying in front of Congress today and tomorrow in what I call the son of Humphrey Hawkins testimony. There used to be legislation from Humphrey and Hawkins senators, and that was a requirement. I say that with quotation marks because Congress can't require the Fed to do anything, to come testify twice a year in front of Congress about the state of the monetary policy in the U.S. That legislation ended, but out of the graciousness of their heart, the Federal Reserve has agreed to continue to come testify every 6 months, so twice a year. And it's just difficult to listen to all these banking committee members get their 15 minutes of fame. So we could get some movement in the bond market, et cetera. But let's take a look at this chart of the S&P. What I wanted to show you here is that we do have a little bit of a symmetrical triangle here. We're going to get some sort of a breakout of the S&P. Which way are we going to go is the question. As you know, triangles can break either direction. If we break to the upside, then we likely break over this 610 level, take out that wave 3 and wave 5, and we're probably off onto the tap box up around 630. However, if we break to the downside, it becomes trickier because you can't really go short the market unless we take out this wave 4. So we have a pretty solid wave 4 right at 50%. And based on the size of the triangle, if we break down, that's right about where we're going to go. So it would be difficult to put on a short position unless you're able to catch a real short one here or a quick position on the way down. So we're going to have to wait over the next couple of days, but we will see some sort of a breakout in the S&P. And I think that'll be quite interesting to see. I thought I would just bring up the chart of TLT since I said we'll see what's going on in the bond market today with Powell testifying. We have prices coming back down in the TLT, which means yields are ticking up just a bit as he's been pretty listening to the testimony, pretty stout on there's no rush for any further rate cuts. We'll see if the bond market can continue just to churn through here. I think that is constructive for the equities market. But if we were to get another big breakdown in prices and therefore move up in yields, that could yield a catalyst for the downside breakout on the S&P. So that's what's going on in the equities markets. But let's get to what you're here for, which is the crypto markets. Let's bring Brandon in. How you doing, Brandon?
Oh boy, we have a lot to talk about today, man. I'm doing good, Rob. I'm glad that you asked. Thanks for asking. How are you doing?
Sure.
Oh my goodness.
I love doing these shows with you. I learn something every time. And you mentioned before we started that we were going to talk a little bit about Ethereum. I think that's a pretty good subject to talk about because I know myself included are a little confused on why Ethereum hasn't been acting quite the same as some of the other cryptos are. So I'll put it to you. Take it away.
Let's go. Yeah, we're gonna try to break that down for you, Rob. I'll try to do it easy peasy. But first,
I appreciate that.
Well, you mentioned, I mean, you're right on point. You're like, why isn't it performing like the rest of the cryptos? We look at Bitcoin, for example. We have MicroStrategy. Well, I guess they rebranded as Strategy. So we got to get that right now. Last week, he didn't buy any Bitcoins, but this week he bought some Bitcoin. Okay. A Strategy acquires 7,633 Bitcoin and now holds 478,740. Man, that's quite a bit. Obviously, the biggest company of all time, but there's other companies following his trends. Okay, I don't know if you've ever heard of Meta Planet. They're across the pond there quite a ways, but they have reached new all-time highs because they're starting to follow the Bitcoin strategy. And this weekend, they announced that they're going to try to acquire 21,000 Bitcoin by the year 2026. So we look at this, and with its surge, it surged up over 3,500%, 35 times after they've started the Bitcoin strategy. And we have even more companies doing this. We have Semler Scientific, we have Soul Strategy, we have all these companies following in strategies steps. And you're like, hey, so Bitcoin's doing really well. It's moving up. It's been holding stable. The other cryptos are doing really well. But the one flounderer, I guess the one fish that's sinking in the sea is Ethereum, right? So we have Ethereum really struggling. But if you look at the CME, you look at the short positions, okay? Currently, short positions just reached a new record high. Those red bars there are all the short positions that are not just they're not even on the dexes. These are the actual institution and the hedge fund short positions on Ethereum. So they've been selling and naked selling like crazy, and they have all these short positions on. So when a retail investor comes in here and they see all these short positions, a couple of different things happen. Psychologically, the retail guys are like, well, if the hedge funds are shorting Ethereum, I might as well short it too because they know what they're doing. But I think this could be a bit of a liquidity trap that they could be walking into, unfortunately, because when you look at the ETFs right here, you see a little bit of a different story. The hedge funds are actually buying also. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 positive days on the ETF inflows and very little negative outflow days for the ETFs. So you look at this and you're like, okay, we see a mix up here. We see two different stories. We see the hedge funds are shorting crazy like amounts of ETH, but now they're also buying. That doesn't make sense. So what I think is happening here is a liquidity trap. They're shorting big amounts of ETH to try to bait retail traders to come in and short as well.
Yeah, I feel
Yes.
I could interrupt you real quick. I was just going to
Yeah.
say, that's the exact point that I was going to make. Is that a lot of times when this occurs, when you see big, heavy short selling from the institutions, they're trying to lure the retail public in, and then the short covering rally starts, right? And they wipe out all of
Yeah.
the retail traders. It's a standard thing that happens in the equities market as well. And I couldn't agree with you more that this could be a trap or a setup. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there.
No,
But, makes a
I
lot
mean,
of
you're
sense.
dead right. Dead right. I mean, this is scary too because what's going to happen as soon as the retail gets their max amount of positions on, they're going to reach max pain because these hedge funds are going to go, they're going to pull all their orders up, and then you're going to have a
Yep.
short squeeze like you've never seen before. So let's go ahead and look at the chart of ETH here, just because I have this thing pulled up. This is Ethereum right now, and right now the Ethereum Bitcoin level is at almost an all-time low. This is 2021, which is right before it had its big run up. Obviously, this is the high for ETH was right here. It was $4,800, and this was against Bitcoin as well. So even though this is, I think it did it 2.5 times against Bitcoin, that's not against the US dollar. And then since then, it's pretty much been in a steady downtrend all the way until, well, today. We're at 0.027 on this trading pair against Bitcoin. But the reason I want to show this chart is remember this here a little bit, and I'm going to zoom all the way out. I think this is on the weekly. Now, if we kind of zoom in, we had the same exact thing happen, and we had the same exact thing happen back in, let's see if I can move this up. Back in 2016, we had the same exact thing happen. Ethereum was all-time low, moved all the way up. This is the high of 2017, started the end of 2016. And then it started to retrace again all the way into 27-18. But then if I start to move this chart over again, after it reached a big low, after a huge drop off, just like that, guess what happened again after that? Yep, exactly. Popped right back up. Boom, popped right back up. So now we're sitting in the same exact scenario. We've reached an all-time low again on ETH. We're sitting down here at this level right here, which is a really, really low level. Okay. So with that short squeeze in play and the potential for this thing to start moving when all season comes back, I'm starting to tell people, and we're starting to talk about ETH potentially now looking like a play going into 2025. If it has the potential and if it takes off, this could be one of the biggest movers over the next couple of months compared to Bitcoin, compared to anything else. And that includes, I mean, even Solana, with it getting a potential ETFs that everybody's talking about and stuff like that. ETH could still be the play because it could easily have that short squeeze momentum, and you could see a massive candle to the upside just any day really now. So that's kind of what I want to look at here, and that's what I wanted to talk about. I don't know what your thoughts are looking at those charts and what we're talking about here. What do you think, Rob?
Well, in looking at the charts, clearly on that longer term Ethereum chart, we are down at long term support. So if it doesn't hold right here and we don't get the bounce that you're talking about, the short covering bounce, then Ethereum is going significantly lower, which is really hard to imagine. So it seems like just without all the backdrop that you added with the shorting, et cetera, just from a purely technical standpoint, you would have to say it's a good risk reward position right here, since it's sitting at significant lows that acted as support a couple times in the past. So the likelihood of bouncing from here, I think, is pretty high. And then you get the retail public to just see the downtrend, and they think that things are going to last forever. Nothing goes straight down or straight up forever. So it seems like a just from a purely technical standpoint, a really good time to dip your toes in the water here. And then you add in all the backdrop of all the things that you talked about with heavy institutional selling. Sellers are really smart. We talk about this all the time. The shorts are smart, and they set up the retail public better than the longs do. So all that makes sense. And it does seem like, unfortunately, so a lot of the retail public is gonna take a bath on this one, as what usually happens in the markets if you don't have the education like what you provide in the crypto side of things.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think they're going to get caught with their pants down on this one. Unfortunately, the behind the scenes too, just to add just a little bit more insight. You have Vitalik. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's the creator of Ethereum. Just this last week, he basically got rid of the entire DAO, the Ethereum Foundation. He got rid of them because they've been relentlessly selling Ethereum into the market and doing some other things that he's not happy about. So he's looking to make a shift in how Ethereum is run. We have the new Petra update coming soon, which is a big deal for Ethereum, that way out of the scope of what this show is going to do. But there's a lot of changes coming that could be beneficial for Ethereum, on top of the actual technical, the liquidation stuff that could happen. So ETH could, I mean, it looks bad. And like you said, I mean, it could go to zero, but who knows? But I think it looks good for a nice little setup right here, potentially move to the upside.
Yeah, I agree. And just to be real specific on what I was talking about, and I think what you're talking about as well, is when you get down to a significant point of support, oftentimes, whether or not the short selling uh, reverse plays out and you get the short covering rally or not, just from a purely technical standpoint, bouncing off a long-term level of a low is a good trade on its own merit, aside from everything else. So if it does break that, then yeah, Ethereum's in a world of hurt, and it's hard to imagine that. Y'all wonder what the motive was behind Eric Trump's tweet, etc. So Ethereum is certainly one that bears watching right now. It's interesting from a number of different areas. So I'm glad you wanted to bring that up in this recording. So do you see any scenario where, because I just talked about from a risk to reward standpoint, bouncing off a support level is a good technical entry point, regardless of what the motive may be. But is there any scenario where you could see Ethereum just completely breaking down? Because if it did break below that support, then we would be looking at a lot lower Ethereum. So is there anything out there that could propel that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if there's a shift in the way that people want to hop onto the blockchain, Ethereum has been the chain where everybody builds. We have all the layer twos launching. I think Uniswap actually launched a layer two today, which is absurd in this. I don't know what they were. Anyway, that's besides the point. But they launched another layer two. But if the adoption moves 100% over to Solana and Ethereum just becomes a building layer with no benefit for Ethereum holders, and it all moves to the layer twos, and Vitalik decides that he's not going to implement a better fee structure for the layer one, then there won't be any reason to hold ETH anymore. It'll just be a gas tool used, and people will just invest in it for the gas. And that will catapult this thing to the downside. So yeah, that's always definitely out there. So be very aware of that.
I appreciate you bringing that up because there's always risk, right? There's no such thing as no risk in any market. And we know
Yeah.
that there's a bit of volatility built into the crypto land. So it is good to give the alternative point. Sometimes they get criticized like, well, you talk upside or the downside. Well, you always have to be prepared if you're wrong, right? So what happens if you're wrong? And that's what I wanted to find out. So you
Yeah.
filled that in. So even though all the things that we talked about could yield a big bounce in Ethereum, there's always a risk. And if it were to break that level, I don't think that that seems likely. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's a possibility, right? So traders need to consider
Oh,
those types of things
yeah.
as well. But if you wanted to take a shot, and when you talk about risk or reward, you know where the support level is. All right. So if you wanted to try to do something now and capture a bounce, whether it gets fueled by short covering or not, it's a logical point to do it because your stop's pretty close. If it breaks down too much from here, you'd get out. So from a risk to reward standpoint, it makes a lot of sense, regardless of all the other stuff that you've filled in with us. So it's a really
Yeah.
good technical chat here, along with all of your fundamental stuff going on. Ethereum. Anything else that you wanted to cover on Ethereum? Do you
No,
want to
no,
talk
I
about
think
Solana real quick at all? Or sorry,
uh, so
try to
no,
get as
no,
much out of you as I can,
you
Brandon.
bring, no, you bring up a good point. I mean, Solana's got a lot of stuff on its own. I mean, Solana is, I think the new exciting, the new kid on the block this go around, and everybody's excited about it because but the negative with Solana is that's where the meme coins are traded, and people are starting to get burnt out right now with the meme coin craze because so many people are getting burnt. You have the Pump.Fund lawsuit and other things happening where there could be a shift away from Solana, actually, where they realize that is only the meme coin casino and everybody's getting burnt. So why do you need Solana if you're not going to be trading meme coins? So we're going to have to see how they adapt from that point of view and go forward over the next couple months. With the ETF launch, I think that's inevitable. That may help assist a little bit and may shift the narrative. And then if they can start to do RWA on Solana, if BlackRock actually comes through and shifts over to Solana, then that would shift that narrative as well. So it's all those things. There's just a lot of moving parts all the time. You kind of got to stay up on all this stuff, and the best way to do that is obviously to go follow us over at Digital Investor. I mean, we do shows 5 times a week. We do tools over on our dashboard to help you navigate through all of this crypto nonsense. We give you tools and we give you education on how to use those tools as well, which may be more valuable than even me just yakking about these things going on in the market. So go ahead and give us a follow over there, and we'll put that link in the description. But that's pretty much what's going on this week, Rob.
Sounds good, and appreciate your time as always, Brandon. And glad you showed where people can find out more about all this stuff. And clearly, there's a lot that people need to know about. It's not just as easy as going out and buying Bitcoin anymore in the world of cryptos. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap things up?
Rob, we have a lot coming up. I think we have a couple. We have CPI and PPI this week. That's going to affect
Yeah.
the crypto market. And then anytime Trump talks about tariffs, we have some moves. So we'll see what happens this week.
Does
Oh
Trump
my
talk
gosh.
about tariffs? I hadn't noticed.
Yeah. Oh boy. Fun
No,
times. Fun
yeah,
times.
I just wanted to add one other comment that Solana's actually in an area of support as well. So a lot of movement could be happening here pretty quickly. So make sure you stay tuned, and we'll bring you the latest and greatest news going on. So Brandon, as always, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it very much. Insightful information. Going to keep a close eye on Ethereum, see what happens, and look forward to talking to you again soon. And we'll see where things are at that point in time. We should know, right? It should have bounced or
Yeah.
broken support by the next time we chat.
Yep.
So sounds great.
Exactly. Sweet.
All right.
We'll see ya.
All right. All right. Thanks, Brandon. Take care, everybody.